welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Ali.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is our final show of 2024. What a year it has been.
What a year it has been indeed. We got a big episode and we're going to kick it off with the 2024 year in review. Because what else do we do in our final episode of 2024? And then, of course, we're going to take you to the Euros because we have our group solidified. And boy, do we have a group of death. And then finally, we're going to talk WSL and Champions League.
No, we're not.
I meant the championship, not Champions League. We are not talking Champions League yet, although we do have that solidified as well for the quarterfinals. So everything's happening, and we're going to do it all here in this final 2024 episode.
So we will be back the week of the 13th of Jan, which means that the episode will drop for you on the 15th of Jan. Make sure you also check out our Patreon because there may be a few goodies floating around between Christmas and New Year and that time. But the official episodes will be back on the 15th.
And that's just 3 weeks off, everybody. Just 3 weeks. And then we're back with you. So without further ado, let's get into the year in review.
So, we're going to review everything that has happened in 2024. Almost likely our highlights and lowlights.
But inevitably, we're going to miss something. So,
yeah.
For those of you listening, hit us up on social media and comment what if we missed something. Because we tried, but we knew we were going to miss something. But this is a long list, so enjoy.
It is an absolutely mammoth mega list. So my first highlight, and it is a bit of a silly one, but I love it when women's football doesn't take itself too seriously. And I would like to shout out the Rusha Littlejohn podcast, specifically when she did an impression of Jonas and then got subsequently banned by Arsenal. I just thought that was hilarious.
As in, like, cannot enter the Emirates?
Yeah. Also, just basically Little John's winding up of Arsenal fans in general, and Arsenal has been quite hilarious. So yeah, I like it when women's football doesn't take it too self-seriously, so you should check out Rusha Littlejohn's podcast if you haven't.
I'm looking at a list right now, Ali, and I feel like you are obligated to see the second bullet point as well.
Yeah, so my other second bullet point, I can't believe it was 2024, but it was in February of this year. West Ham finally beat Arsenal in February. It took us a while, but we did it. So I'm very happy about that. Those are my two top highlights.
All right, moving on with the highlights of the year. It was the year of Marta and of Barbara Banda. It was the year of the two of them. Marta won a silver medal, and she was the Shield winner and NWSL Championship winner. Barbara Banda, not only did she dominate the NWSL, she won BBC Women's Footballer of the Year. She also scored a hat-trick in the Olympics. That's back-to-back hat-tricks because she scored one in Tokyo as well. It was just a year for these two. It's been a highlight year for them. Had to throw it out.
Yeah, and also with Marta with her silver medal, and again, being part of that Orlando Pride team finally winning the league. Like, it's been like Marta's going out on a very good high.
Well, that's actually part of the highlight is like, we don't actually know if Marta's going out. She also has said Olympics 2027, not out of the question. Maybe she'll be in a Brazilian uniform in Brazil.
So the other big one for me is Wales qualifying for their first major tournament. I love it when a home nation other than England managed to qualify for tournaments. And if anybody watched the Republic of Ireland and Wales game, you will know that it was very emotional. Both teams really wanted it, but Wales have not managed to qualify through many years of trying, and they've gone from being a part-time national team where they didn't even have the names on the back of their shirts because it was very much a case of the manager would be like, you're number 4 today, you're number 5 today. To save the money, they didn't have names on the back of the shirt, to being a properly funded. The Welsh FA is really going for it right now. We've had some legends such as Jess Fishlock, Hayley Ladd, and to see them qualify for the Euros and to be going out to Switzerland is massive, and I'm so proud of them. So yeah, for me, a massive highlight is Wales qualifying for the Euros this year.
And a little foreshadowing, because we're going to talk Euros 2025 a little bit later. All right, continuing on, another highlight. The USL Super League, the second professional league in the United States, kicked off this year.
And next highlight was the Olympics and the drama that it was. Obviously, Sarah was very excited that the USA were back on top with their gold medal.
Whoop, whoop.
Obviously, we had Dronegate, which kept us all very on the edge of our seats, and we're still feeling the effects of that. But yeah, the Olympics were one to watch this year.
We also had the first ever W Gold Cup. Hard to remember that all the way that far back. I think that was January of this year. I could be wrong. Maybe it was February. It doesn't matter. It was right at the start. It was the first ever, and it brought us all of the CONCACAF madness, some of which will come up when we talk about the lowlights.
Another huge highlight in women's football generally is Michelle Kang and her dynasty, obviously putting in a huge amount of money over at Lyon and as well as Washington Spirit. She took over the London City Lionesses as their major investor, brought in some insane talent there. We'll be talking about that when we talk about the championship. But they are on the rise, and it is huge. So, yeah, long reign Michelle Kang's sports philanthropy.
We had Blue Sky, the social media app, coming up strong, taking over, and kind of resurging the positive WOSO community when it got real toxic out there on X. And we also had so much content. We had movies like Copa 71, Seakabo, whatever that Hope Solo documentary is called that we watched. All of the content. We love it.
Speaking of new leagues, the Northern Super League was announced to hit us in 2025. So hopefully that'll be a highlight for 2025.
Championships went to Barcelona. They won the Champions League. They finally defeated Lyon for their third Champions League victory. And Chelsea took the WSL once again. Depending on who you are, this could also fall into the negatives column. Take your pick. Speaking of Chelsea, after they won, Emma Hayes took over. Well, kind of during their, doesn't matter. Emma Hayes took over as the U.S. Women's National Team head coach. 2024 will forever be the year that the Hayes dynasty began here in the U.S. And I say it with such a smile.
We know who is hosting the Women's World Cup for 2027, and it will be Brazil, the home of modern football. So that's going to be exciting.
There will be no drafts in the NWSL anymore. As of 2024, no college draft, no expansion draft. And we are seeing the fruits of the first ever off-season chaos with no draft. And it's already amazing.
Keeping it in the WSL this time. And the resurgence of Fran Kirby, her moving to Brighton, and then in general, the rise of Brighton challenging those traditional top four places. We love to see it.
This happened right after the WSL season, so this is a good reminder. Keeping it in the WSL from last season, Bunny Shaw was the FA Women's Footballer of the Year. It's about damn time. Finally, Bunny Shaw saw those accolades and reaped those benefits and those rewards, which she has been so deserving of for so long, and that was really nice to see her get that award.
Absolutely. For a personal highlight for us is we've managed to get some great interviews this year to bring you that great content. Coming to mind is Chloe Morgan. We had one recently with Corey Soto that you can still check out. So yeah, we've been very blessed with our guests this year.
Awesome. Yeah, we had Susie Cirilli on, a lawyer, to talk about what the situation is with teams, how they rent out stadiums, if you're interested in that. You talk about labor employment with players. Go check that out. So many wonderful guests who we say thank you to. Going back, NWSL, as we get to the bottom of this list. This season of the NWSL kicked off with a 5-4 stunner in Kansas City's own stadium. It was the first game in KC's stadium, which, by the way, is the first game in a women's soccer specific stadium ever in the United States, because that was the opening of the first ever women's soccer specific stadium in Kansas City. So incredible to see. And also just throughout the season, I'll say the highlight, watching that stadium be packed on a week-to-week basis. So much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And keeping it with the NWSL, first off, you had off-season FC premieres, and we want more. And by we, I mean Sarah. I've still not watched it. But
it's a damn shame. You really should.
And then the second thing is the NWSL joined the rest of us in the 21st century and are now selling goalkeeper kits. So you can get a proper goalkeeper shirt with your favorite on the back.
And of course, we cannot do this list without saying one of the big highlights, as it is year on year now is viewership numbers continue to climb for women's soccer. For example, 1.5 million people watched the Republic of Ireland versus Lionesses. That was only the second round of Euros qualifying, and 1.5 million people tuned in to watch that. And that was without any advertising for it. And still 1.5 million people tuned in. Everybody watches women's sports. Imagine what that number would be if they had actually put money into advertising it.
And then finally, of our highlights, again, another silly one to end it all off, which was
the best one. We have to end it with this one, which was not intentional, but what a perfect one to end it on.
Which was KMU joining my beloved Hammers, or Hammies, as she has dubbed us, and giving us the most painful corner because she was doing it in gale force winds against Spurs. That moment will forever live on. We thank you, KMU.
For those of you who haven't seen it, you should just Google it. It's Christy Mewis trying to take a corner kick, and the corner flag keeps like blowing down in her way, and the ball won't stay still. And it's just, it's like it literally could have been from the Marx Brothers or like an SNL bit. It's so good, and that gif will live on forever. It makes me smile whenever I see that. All right, we did the highlights. We got to spend a quick moment on some lowlights, but the good news is the highlight list is way longer than the lowlight list.
That is true. First big lowlight is Landon Donovan taking over at San Diego Wave against Casey Stoney. That was a massive downgrade for the Wave, let's be honest.
There's not a number of times that's too many times that we can bring that up or say that. It's just, it will live forever. Of the worst, the CONCACAF W Gold Cup brought us the waterlogged pitch between USA and Canada that will just live forever. This was, if you'll remember, this was the Alex Morgan AM7 era. This was the game that should have never been played. It was, I don't think we could call it soccer. I don't think we could call it football. It was simply a waterlogged pitch. It looked like what we call like micro soccer, because it looked like it could have been 6-year-olds running around with the ball because nobody was able to control the ball because they were playing in puddles of water.
These next two are very much linked, but the fact we are still seeing abusive coaches remaining in power without any real consequences, and that's linked on that even when they do get moved on, nothing really changes, as we hear from Bonmati when talking about the Spanish setup.
And of course, we could not include the worst of 2024 if we didn't also mention Corbin Albert's social media presence, everything about that, the fallout from it, the fact that the U.S. women's national team did not address it correctly, the fact that it still has not been addressed. Definitely in the worst of 2024.
Absolutely. And speaking of the worst for 2024, Reading Football Club continues to fall down in grace. They were originally in the championship. They just about survived the championship and then was told there's not enough money to keep them in the championship, so they've had to fold and go down to tier 5 in the UK football, which means they've lost a lot of players because they've had to go down to part-time. They train like 2 times a week, and it's sad because the money was basically because the men's team failed.
Along with this, the end of an era for the U.S. women's national team. We saw so many beloved players retire. Oh my goodness, I can't even start with the list of them. Basically, anybody, if you're my age, which is 18 years old, which is 32 years old, anybody that you grew up watching on the U.S. women's national team is officially retiring. And it really has felt like a wave, like the end of an era for the U.S. as we usher in the brand new one, which, by the way, is equally exciting, but it's just, God, that was hard for the heart. A lot right in a row.
It was. However, we did get some great retirement speeches. Mm-hmm. Not a U.S. national one. I will say this was a highlight, which was when Christine Sinclair retired and they were giving that huge speech and she's like, I'm not dead.
That was so good. That was equivalent to Pino in her final speech being like, pull it together, Lindsay.
Yeah, that for me was like the highlight was just going to the mic being like, I'm not dead.
Oh, we'll live forever. Pull it together, Lindsay.
Another sad moment was the fact that we keep talking about it, but Man United women are still not treated with respect by their club. And the big one was them being moved out of their purpose-built training facilities because the men needed it, and they were moved 45 miles down the road, which was nowhere near where they play, which was stupid.
Another thing that we just simply, there's not enough times that we can talk about it. Never too many.
Nope.
All right, unfortunately, this is on the list every year, but more ACL injuries, too many ACL injuries, just so many ACL injuries all across the board. Extremely disappointing. But I suppose a positive that we didn't put on the highlight list is that I think that there has been at least some progress, some movement in terms of trying to move the needle in research of why there are so many more ACL injuries to professional women's soccer players than there are men's soccer players.
And then the final one, and probably the saddest one of them all.
Truly, we shed so many tears.
The Arnold Clark Cup is no more. Arnold Clark, the founder of women's football, is no more.
The founder of women's football.
And speaking of cup competitions that are no more, the iconic Conti Cup is no more. It has changed its name. It has now got a new sponsor, which is very exciting because it's a big sponsor. Subway are now sponsoring the League Cup.
I am still holding out hope that we'll see Arnold Clark 2025 or 2026. I can just see it like 5 years that it pops back up and everybody's like, praise Arnold. On to the Euros. That's right. The next time we talk, Allie, at least, the next time we talk while it's recording, it's going to be the year of the Euros. It's going to be 2025 Euros in Switzerland. And as a special holiday present, they have given us, as we head into the holidays and the new year, the groups for Switzerland 2025. So let's do it. They came out Monday, December 16th. It was announced, or they were drawn. Both things happened that day. And I mean, I don't know who I feel more sorry for. Do I feel more sorry for Wales or everybody else who's in Group D? Because holy hell, it's a group of death. Let's do it. Let's go backwards order because I gotta start. Group D, no question the group of death. France, England, Netherlands, and Wales.
Yep. And then Group C, we've got Germany, Denmark, Sweden, and Poland.
Group B, Spain, Italy, Belgium, Portugal.
And then finally, Group A, Switzerland, Iceland, Norway, Finland.
We knew this was a possibility because England was in a different group from Spain, Germany, and France. And all four of them were also in a different group from the Netherlands. So we knew it was a possibility that we would end up with something like this. But I swear, it's like it was rigged. England are not only in the group of death, but also, like you guessed, have Wales in the group as well.
I could have, staked my firstborn's life on it in the fact that we would draw the home nation because we have done in every tournament that another home nation has qualified for. So it was always on the cards that Wales were going to be on our group. It's going to make a really exciting match because whenever the home nations meet, it's always fantastic and always fun and everybody's up for it. But I do feel a little bit sorry for Wales. Why could they not be in Group A where they had a fighting chance?
Okay, this is the question then. Who do you feel more sorry for? Do you feel more sorry for Wales, who's in a group with the Netherlands, England, and France? Or do you feel more sorry for France, England, and the Netherlands, who are arguably powerhouses but ended up in a group with each other?
I think I feel a bit more sorry for the powerhouses, if I'm going to be honest, because Wales, I think, are going to have a great time regardless because, like I said, this is the first tournament they have qualified in their history. This is not like in recent history. This is not like this current batch of players. In all of Welsh women's recent history, this is the first tournament that they have qualified for. So I think they're going to have a great time. They're going to go out there. Of course, they're going to give it their all. It's not going to be like a holiday for them, but it's going to be a brilliant time for Wales regardless of where they play. I think the other powerhouses are excited the fact that one or two of them could be knocked out in the group stages and they don't have to play them in the quarters, semis, and final.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, so the thing about the Euros is that because there's 16 teams, we go right into the quarterfinals, which means 2 teams from every group qualify. There's none of this like, the best third place team qualifies. No, 2 from each group qualify, which means that when you're looking at the group of death, France, England, Netherlands, and Wales. 2 of those teams will not make it out of the group stage. Allie, if you're betting your money right now, which of those 2 teams will it be that do not make it out of the group stage?
England and Wales. The way we're playing at the moment. The way we're playing now. Like, unless we really pull our finger out the way we're playing now, like, we might beat Wales, and that's a big, hefty might, but France and Netherlands will squish us.
I agree. I actually very much agree with that. The Netherlands looked great against the U.S. in the most recent friendly. France are always up and down, so at least there's that question mark. If you are a Lioness fan, there is that question mark of like, hey, France could really like do us a favor here and just kind of take themselves out of the running as they do sometimes in major tournaments. What do we think about Spain right now? Obviously, they're the defending World Cup champions, but they have yet to win a Euros.
So yes, they've got Italy who will challenge them. They've got Belgium that will challenge them. They've got Portugal that will challenge them. I'm not necessarily saying that it's a hard group for Spain. I'm not saying it's an easy group for Spain, but I do think it's going to really test their mettle in the Euros. And let's be honest, they're most likely going to qualify for the quarterfinals with the performance and the way they are at the moment. And it's going to really prepare them for the quarterfinals.
I think, gosh, these are all really... Group A is an interesting one. Switzerland, Iceland, Norway, Finland. Literally anybody in that group could come out of it. And I kind of feel the same about Group C. I mean, Group C for Germany is kind of reminiscent of the World Cup group that they were in, because we all looked at the World Cup group that they were in and we were like, well, obviously Germany's going first. And then who knows? And Germany didn't even get out of the group stage out of that group. So this kind of feels reminiscent of it. And maybe they'll be able to right the ship this time. Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Poland. Obviously, Sweden's a big factor here.
But so can be Denmark. That's Pernille Harder's team. They've got some players, Denmark, and if they show up, they can be a disruptor for sure.
That's fair. I do think when you look at Group C, it's Germany and Sweden going out of it, and it's up to Denmark or Poland, probably more Denmark, to be a disruptor. But everybody's eyes are on Group D. It had to be. Wow. What a tall task for the defending European champions in England. Has there been a taller task? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think there has. But you know what? If we play our best, then we will do it. If we play like we have been recently, it was nice being in consideration.
Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world. To France, Lyon continue their winning ways and remain unbeaten this season. PSG are hot on their heels with their win this week over Saint Etienne. Paris FC remain third after beating fourth place Dijon.
To Scotland, Glasgow City return to the top of the table after beating title rivals Rangers 3-0. At the other end of the table, however, Dundee finally got their first win of the season, beating Queen's Park 2-1.
And to Germany, Frankfurt remain on top due to their superior goal difference, with Bayern Munich close behind. Wolfsburg jumped to third after a win. However, Bayern Leverkusen still have a game in hand.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides research analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO 10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO 10 at checkout.
Over to the WSL, and we've got a few talking points to talk about with you this week about the WSL. So we've not got a game of the week as such, but there's a few things that we need to have a little chat about. The first one, and the big one, which is Jordan Nobbs has 200 appearances in the WSL. She's the only player to reach that landmark appearance record.
Now, here's a question. In international football, they call it caps, so like 200 caps, right?
Yeah.
I know over there, that's not a term you guys use for league play. Is that correct?
Correct. We would say appearances.
And why?
Because you don't actually get a cap. So the history of caps, if people are not aware, is that you physically get a cap when you make an appearance for your country. And I believe it used to be for every single appearance, and now it's just for significant ones. But you physically get a cap. You don't get that for league appearances, so therefore it's appearances.
Lovely. I love that. A little lesson. Although I will say, I feel like at this point they're kind of interchangeable because kind of like what you said, you don't actually physically get a cap for your appearances anymore. And I feel like at this point it's just a soccer word or a football word for appearance. But I know some people get annoyed if we use it for non-international appearances. So just a musing of mine. All right. I guess we're going to sandwich this. We're going to go positive, negative, positive, right? So that was a positive. Now we're going to do a quick negative here because speaking of Jordan Nobbs, who plays on Aston Villa, some news about Aston Villa came out very recently. The Aston Villa head coach, Robert Dupont, was sacked in the past week. And then the wonderful Tom Gary wrote an article in The Guardian. He wrote an article covering the fact that Robert Dupont was leaving Villa. And he wrote that he left Villa amid, quote, allegations over remarks to players. He wrote that, quote, Robert Dupont's departure from his role as Aston Villa's women's team manager on Wednesday came amid concerns regarding the way he had allegedly spoke to his players, including about their appearance, The Guardian has been told, unquote.
Yeah. And then, to add more to the mix, Robert Dupont then took to Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, to say, I knew that the English press stooped low. I didn't realise they would stoop this low. I, as a father, and a former social worker, would never talk to players or people like that. Retract this now before I sue you.
I mean, it's like you said before you hit record. The moment I'm a father or like I'm a husband of a wife comes out of people's mouths, it's like, oop, red flag.
Yep, it's a huge... I have interacted with females. Like,
I know a woman. Do you know that? I actually know a woman and she likes me. And so obviously I could never do this. Please. Listen, when this came out, how long have I been saying, Allie, like something doesn't make sense at Aston Villa, right? For the roster that they have, for the players that they have, the expectations have been so high because they could be so good. And it's just seemed for so long that something wasn't clicking. And the question has been, why is something not clicking? There's obviously something toxic that we're not, we can't see from the outside, something emotional. What was it we didn't know? Was it between the players? Where was it? This might be the answer.
Yeah, I'm going to be intrigued because they've currently got a caretaker manager in Sean Gota.
Caretaker manager? I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, it's a caretaker.
We say interim.
We call it a caretaker.
It sounds like a babysitter. Like a nanny. They've got a nanny.
Shut up. Sidebar, me and Sarah are going to do a Patreon episode where we do English versus American because we've had a lot today.
That will obviously be one of them.
We've had a lot today.
Yeah, we have.
No, so Sean Gota, who, if you follow men's football, is a legend in men's football. He literally has GOAT in his name. So he is, to Man City fans, he's a big deal. He hasn't got any real managerial experience. He's been assistant, I think, to a couple of teams, but he's mainly done non-league teams in the UK. So he's not got much experience. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly a new manager is appointed.
Yeah. Well, all right. And on to the positive. We said it was a sandwich. On to the second positive that we get to talk about this week's games, because the final week of the WSL, or the final weekend of the WSL has concluded for 2024. And I have to say, following a weekend, which was the previous weekend's scorelines were just absurd, like no close games whatsoever. You look at this past weekend, the final one of 2024, and we had 2 draws. We had 3 games that were all decided by 1 goal. The only one that didn't fall into that category was Villa beating West Ham 3-1, which is still a relatively close scoreline. But the big one I think that I want to mention here is Chelsea, who were not only undefeated, they had not lost or drawn yet at all this year, got their first draw of the season, and it was handed them by Leicester City. And for a moment, it looked like Leicester City were actually going to win.
I was going to say, like, they left it very late to equalise. Like, I felt really even though Leicester City are relegation rivals with my beloved West Ham, I felt really sorry for them because they were so close to taking the 3 points off of Chelsea. And it was a very last-minute goal. But anybody to take points off of Chelsea at the moment, you know, when other big teams such as Man City couldn't do it, United couldn't do it, for good old Leicester City is absolutely massive. And it was a really good game, and Leicester really frustrated Chelsea.
But that leads me, let's have some fun here, because the top of the table has been just like so not fun in the WSL. So let's talk about Chelsea for a second, and let's have some fun questions. Will Chelsea suffer a loss this season? And if so, who will be the first one to hand Chelsea their loss?
Yes, I do think Chelsea will lose. I think it's not sustainable at the moment, the way that they're going. I think it's going to be someone unpredictable like Liverpool last year. Like Liverpool at the very end of the season taking those points and making things exciting. So I think that they're going to come up against maybe Leicester in the return fixture. Because Leicester really took it to them. So, I will bang that. I'll say Leicester in the return fixture is going to be a loss for Chelsea.
All right, second part of this question, because we've, like we said, we're talking about this table, bit of a bore, to be honest, for the first half of this season. Do you think the second half of this season is going to look any different?
Top half, like the top 4 or 5, no. I just think they're going to flit around, but not really by that much. I think, as we've seen with the Man City result this weekend, which, if you are a Patreon subscriber, please go over to our Patreon, where me and Mike will be talking about the Everton-Man City game. See, that seamless link.
Very nice.
Anything can happen, but I do think it is going to be just probably people chasing Chelsea.
Yeah. I mean, I think we are set up for a great battle for the last Champions League spot. Right now, City have 22 points, and then Arsenal and United are both locked at 21 points right below them. So we're obviously going to see a pretty fun battle for that. But I agree with you, I think, in terms of the rest of it. I think it'll stay the same, and the action will remain at the bottom of the table and kind of in the middle of the table, where we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I would agree. As you so mentioned the Champions League, let's get into it and talk about, because despite the fact there is still a couple of games left in the groups, we do know who our quarter finalists are. And they be Arsenal, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Lyon, Manchester City, Real Madrid, and Wolfsburg.
All right, let's see here. 3 from the WSL, 2 from the Spanish League, 2 from the German League, and 1 from the French League.
Big surprise PSG's not get through, because PSG didn't even get to the groups.
Yeah, and last year we had Hacken making it pretty far. We had Roma from Italy making it pretty far. So it feels like we're really back to these teams that are kind of like staples of the Champions League. What do you make of that?
I think Manchester City haven't been in it for a while. Like, last time I remember them playing in the Champions League game was against Lyon, and Carly Lloyd was still playing for them. I think they may have had one season after that, but it's been a long time since.
I mean, Arsenal were not really in it last year, but it's only been a year out.
Yeah, so it is, as an English person, it is quite nice to see 3 English teams, and I believe they can't play each other, the way it breaks down, because they can't be in the same pot. So we should maybe get a English semi-finalist, so that will be interesting.
I'm a little bummed to not see an Italian team. You know, we don't say Juventus and we don't see AS Roma. Would have loved to see, it's like more, I just love when there's a little bit more representation.
A bit more diversity.
Yeah, totally. I mean, even talking about like Dutch football clubs, sometimes Ajax is in it.
Yep.
FC Twente had made it this far, but they won't make it past the group stages. I think I prefer when there's more of a smattering of countries represented. But hey, it's always fun when like big names, big clubs make it in, like what we have here. And for the final topic of 2024, we are going to talk the championship. Do people ever call it the WSL2, as in like the WSL second division?
No, because they sort of moved away from that because they tried to mirror the men's pyramid. So the division below the Premiership is the championship. So they sort of try and mirror the men.
I like it, but I would have liked a different name. Like you have the Premiership and the Championship. We have the Super League. What about like the Superiorship or something like that? You know what I mean?
No, I get that. But yeah, so we mentioned the Championship last week as it's hotting up because there is so few points between top 8 teams, basically, at this stage. Unlike in the WSL where it's almost a foregone conclusion who's going to win the league, we have no idea who's going to win the Championship. So we thought that we would take a little bit of a deep dive into the contenders that are coming up. Some of them, we're not going through all 8 of them, because we've got the possibility of either getting some old favourites returning in Birmingham City, Bristol City, Sunderland, or some fresh blood who have never been in the WSL, your Durhams, your Sheffields, your Southamptons, your London City Lionesses.
All right, so let's get into it. It seems like right now, the 3 main teams that are in contention are Birmingham City, Bristol City, and Durham. 2 of those 3 have been in the WSL, in Birmingham City and Bristol City. Durham have not, as you mentioned. So give us a little bit about each team here. Maybe something that we can learn and something that we can look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. So Birmingham City are currently top of the table. This is due to goal difference because of Bristol City's performance actually against Durham. They were last in the WSL in the 2021-2022 season.
I can't believe it's been that long, honestly.
It has been that long, and they had some disaster coaches that it did not work out well for them. But they've now seemed to have settled really well with the ex-interim/caretaker Brighton coach, Amy Merricks. She seems to really have settled them in. They've got so many ex-WSL players, including the 2 Elquins, Lucy and Louise. Always makes me laugh because they both have Elquin on the back of their shirt. I'm like, how does this help anybody? As well as Martha Harris. They're currently sitting with 6 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses, which is the same track record as Bristol City. They could do what no other team has done, which is come straight back up after relegation. Normally, you have to have a season or 2.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Normally, you have to have
that no other team has done
you
that.
Normally, got to have a season or 2 in the Championship, and then you will go back up.
This is a team also that's been up and down, up and down. Like, they got relegated after the 2020-2021 season. That was a lot of 20s. After the 2021 season. And then they were down in the in the Championship until the beginning of last season, which they were back up in the WSL last season, and now they're back down. So they've been up and down pretty frequently.
Yeah. So they've got a new manager, but they've managed to keep a lot of the same players, which may sound like it's a bad omen because obviously they got relegated, but it's allowed them to gel much better. And they've had some great results. They got a 5-0 win against other contender Durham this weekend. And they definitely seem to be scoring more, conceding less. So it definitely seems to be working better for Bristol this year. And then the final one is Durham, who I dub always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They've been really close to promotion, but have never quite got over the line. They are one of only 2 clubs in the league that are not backed by a men's team. They're actually backed by the University of Durham. And they've got a nice mixture of youth and experience there. And so it might just be their year this year.
All right. Anybody else aside from those 3 teams that we should maybe keep our eye on that could potentially get up to the WSL?
So Newcastle and London City have had a massive cash injection into them, which has allowed them to sign some super experienced players. Newcastle have got like Demi Stokes, Rachel Furness. London City Lionesses have got Jakobsen and Aslani. And that means that they will be ready to go if they get into the WSL, which we've always said has been a huge problem for teams that go up. They scrap the team and then can't bond.
To be honest with you, I worry about them if they don't make it up to the WSL, because I feel like with these types of players, the pitch was like, you all come together, we'll win the second division this year, and suddenly you'll be playing in the WSL. I feel like that was the pitch.
It has to have been. It has to have been.
They're going to be hard pressed to keep these caliber of players for, X number of years beyond one in a second division. These are players that could play anywhere in the world, and they're choosing to play in the championship. And after a certain while, they're going to say, okay, I'm just going to go play at the top level while I still can.
Yeah, absolutely. Sunderland is another ex-WSL team. They've not been in for a little while, but they've managed to build themselves back up to championship level to hopefully regain into the WSL. And then the final two are Sheffield and Southampton, who have gone through some trials and tribulations behind the scenes, have had a really good season this season so far, and are really pressing those top three. So it genuinely could be anybody in the top 8 at the moment, because they're all beating each other, but it's not the same people beating each other. And it was like in the Northeast, Sunderland beat Durham, but then Durham beat Newcastle, and all of that fun stuff. I may have got that the wrong way around. But either way, it's exciting to watch. I'm really excited with the championship this year.
And as we said last week, next year, you can watch it all on YouTube.
Yes.
All right. That is it for the Women's Soccer Show 2024, everybody. That wraps it up for this year. Wow, Allie. What a year it has been.
It has been a year.
Been through it all. And we'll be back in just 3 weeks, everybody, for the start of 2025. A reminder, 3 weeks from now, we will kick it back off. The week of January 13th is technically like the second full week in January, which means that our first episode will drop January 15, Wednesday, January 15. Keep that in mind. And as Allie said, you can always head over to Patreon, subscribe, get some extra content, just in case you're missing us a little bit extra. All right. And that's it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.